Now there's this crazy paper cut animation trend suddenly blowing up everywhere. Creators are pulling in millions of views with videos that look like they're made entirely from layered paper. And the animations are pretty, colorful, and so satisfying that people just can't stop watching them. So in this video, I'll show you the complete step-by-step workflow to create stunning paper cut animation videos from scratch using free AI tools. So you can start making videos in bulk today. Alright, so the very first thing you're gonna need is access to the master prompt we're using to automate this entire workflow. You should find that either in the description or inside my completely free school community. Once you've got the master prompt, the next thing you need is a reasoning model. Now we've got a couple of options here. The first one is DeepSeek AI. DeepSeek is completely free, it's open source, anyone can use it without a paywall, and it has no limits. So DeepSeek is your go-to if you don't even want to link a credit card. The next option, and a really popular one, is ChatGPT. I'm sure you've come across it. Also a very nice option. But my personal favorite is Claude by Anthropic. Honestly, any of these three would work just fine. DeepSeek, ChatGPT, or Claude. Any of them work excellently well. For this course, I'm going with Claude. And just so you know, whatever steps we follow here still work across DeepSeek and ChatGPT. Once you've got your chatbot, head over to the master prompt, hit Command+A to highlight everything, then Command+C to copy the whole thing. Then head over to your chatbot, for me, that's Claude, paste it in, and send it. Once you do that, Claude comes back and asks what topic you'd like to explore for this storyboard paper cut style video. And you can pick across any niche: history, football, sports, technology, motivation, whatever you want. For me, I'm just gonna pick one of the defaults here, which is history, and go with the one about how the pyramids were built. I think that's gonna have a much more satisfying visual flow. So I'm just gonna send that back to Claude and let it know I like that idea. Once I send that, Claude asks how long I want the video script to be. Now for this, you can make anywhere from a 1-minute video all the way up to 20 minutes because these animations are really, really good for storytelling and they're completely monetizable. For me, I'm making a very short animation, so I'm gonna go with just 45 seconds. I'll send that to Claude, but you can pick whatever length you want. Once I pick the length, Claude gives me a full 45-second script. And it does it in a way where it numbers every single sentence. Now, the reason it's doing that is because it's giving us a script and also creating a visual beat at the same time, which is gonna make it way easier to create the visuals for this script later on. Real quick, before we move on, let me copy this and head over to a Google Doc so I can paste it in and keep everything looking neat. Now that our script looks good on the document, we need to create the voiceover. Basically, we're turning the script into a high-quality sounding voice because if you want to monetize content like this, your voice cannot sound robotic. For the voiceover, we've got a couple of options. If you want unlimited and free usage, your go-to should be Microsoft Clipchamp. Clipchamp is an editing software that gives you access to some really high-quality AI voices with unlimited usage. So you can generate 30, 40, 50, maybe even 100 hours of AI voiceovers, and they sound pretty passable. Another good option is CapCut's text-to-speech tool. If you've got CapCut on your mobile or desktop, they've also got a really nice text-to-speech option, although you might have to generate a couple of times before you land on a good-sounding voice. But CapCut is definitely a worthy mention when it comes to unlimited usage. Now, if you want something more web-based, your go-to should be Noise AI. Noise AI gives you access to a wide range of voices and about 2,000 free credits every single day, which works out to around 60,000 monthly credits to generate voiceovers completely free on the platform. But my personal favorite is 11 Labs. 11 Labs gives you about 10,000 free credits each month. And the reason they're my go-to is that 11 Labs gives you the best sounding voices when it comes to realism. Their voices can have emotions. You can prompt tags to give your voice a specific tone and cadence. Honestly, it's just the best when it comes to AI voices. The only trade-off is you only get those 10,000 free credits, so you've got to know how to use the platform in a way that conserves credits. So once you've signed up on 11 Labs and clicked on the text-to-speech option, the first thing you do is pick a voice you want to use. Then head back to the script we just pasted and copy the first block of text. We're copying it in chunks because if you paste too much text into 11 Labs at once, the voice starts to sound glitchy and distorted. So copy that first chunk, head over to 11 Labs, paste it in, and hit generate to hear how the voice sounds. One thing you need to know, if you want the best quality sounding voices, make sure you've switched over to the V3 model. That's what gives you the best output. So switch to that model and pick the voice you want for your video. From there, just preview each batch you generate.
4,500 years ago, the desert of Giza.
If it sounds good, download it. Head back to your document, copy the next block of text, paste it into 11 Labs, and generate that batch. Just keep doing that over and over until you've turned your entire script into a high-quality voiceover. Alright, so once you finish generating your voices, head back to your chatbot and type next. Once you do that, the chatbot starts creating a really detailed TXT file that we're going to use to create every single start frame image for this paper cut animation. Now these start frame images are going to be a lot. If you look at the script, we've got 18 different beats. I built the prompt in a way where every single line in your story gets turned into a beat. So in my 45-second story, I've got 18 beats. Copying those 18 beats manually and pasting them into an image platform would work just fine. A couple of platforms you could check out for that. Google Gemini has a really great text-to-image tool. Just sign up on Gemini, click the plus icon, click Create Image, and you've got access to their image creation platform. But that's for people who want to generate their images manually. If you want this automated, where you just drop in your TXT file and the tool generates the images for you, we're going to use Google Flow. Head over to Google Flow. It gives you access to a lot of very advanced AI models for free. Create an account, then create a brand new project. Once you're in, select the toggle at the bottom of the prompt box and make sure you've selected the image models. Pick your aspect ratio. For this, I'm going with 16:9. For the number of images, I'm going to choose 4. And for the model, Nano Banana 2. So this is what we're using to generate our images. But we want Flow to generate them automatically. Because think about it, if you're making a 20-minute video, your script might bring up something like 300 beats. My script is only 45 seconds long and it gave me around 18 beats. So if we do the math, a much longer video would be maybe 10 times that, like 450 beats. That's a lot to generate manually. So to automate this whole flow, what you need to do is search for a Chrome extension called ZappyFlow. It's made by a creator on here, shout out to him. Click on the extension and you'll see Add to Chrome. Click that and this pop-up should appear. Once the pop-up shows, head back to Google Flow and make sure it says Connected to the Flow project. You can tweak a couple of things, but the defaults work just fine. Once you've installed and set the system up to look like this, head back to Claude. Claude should have your TXT file ready by now. Download that TXT file to your computer, then head back to Google Flow. Drag the TXT file into the Flow extension or just click Upload TXT file from the ZappyFlow extension. Select the file and click Open. Now, what happens next is you can see all 18 beats our chatbot created have been logged in here. And all you've got to do is click Start Generating. ZappyFlow now starts creating all the images for us without us needing to do anything. Just leave the extension on and every single beat for your video gets created automatically. And the cool thing about ZappyFlow is that when it creates the images, it also saves them to your computer. So it's not just generating them, it's storing them for you too. You don't have to manually do anything yourself. It just handles everything. Alright, so as you can see, ZappyFlow has pretty much generated every single image we need for this project. You can go through them manually to see how they turned out, but honestly, this looks pretty good. Now that we've got our images as our start frames, all we need to do is head back to Claude and type Next. Once you type Next, Claude gives you an image-to-video animation prompt you can use with video models to create really high-quality papercraft videos. Just copy the prompt it gives you and head over to Flow again. This time, select the Nano Banana option you see there, and switch it over to the video model. Flow gives you really good video models as well as image models. So select the video model, pick your aspect ratio, and choose the number of videos you want per batch. I'm going with just one video output per batch. Then pick the model you'd like to use. I'm using the OmniFlash model, and I'll set the duration to 10 seconds. Once that's done, I'll paste in the prompt I just got from my chatbot, attach one of the images it created for me, and send it. Now, while that's processing, I'm going to add another image to the prompt box. Paste in the exact same prompt and send that too. And I'll just keep doing that a couple of times to get a few videos rolling. Since we selected 4 outputs per prompt, you've got a lot of options to pick from. So just repeat the process until you've turned all 18 beats into high-quality videos for this niche. All right, so after a couple of seconds, we've got our output. Let's preview them and see how they look. Honestly, this looks pretty good. The animation looks neat. Everything is coming together really nicely. All right, so once you've created every single clip you need, the next thing is finding the perfect fitting background track. Head over to the master prompt we're working with and scroll all the way to the bottom. You'll see 2 different music generation prompts we can use for this project.
We need to use these with a music generative AI tool to create a monetizable background track, because a lot of the tracks you find online aren't actually monetizable. So if you want to monetize your content, you need to create one from scratch. And thankfully, AI helps with this. There are a couple platforms you can use, but my personal favorite is Suno AI. So head over to Suno AI and sign in with your Google account. Once you're in, head over to the Create section. Toggle on the instrumental button because I don't want my track to have lyrics. Then I'm going to copy one of the prompt variants from the Google document, paste it into Suno, and generate my track.
While that's generating in the background, I'm going to copy the next one and paste that in too. So I've got 2 audios to compare and see which one sounds best. Now, after a couple of seconds, our tracks are ready. So let's preview them and hear how they sound. Yeah, these sound pretty good. I'm just going to click on the one I like best. Click the 3 dots at the edge of the track, click Download, select Download as MP3, and then click Download Anyway so it saves straight to my device. So now we've got everything we need. Let's move on to compiling it all into a full-blown video. Alright, so once you've collected every single asset you need, I always recommend storing them in a single folder. That way, when you open an editing software like CapCut, you can just import that one folder into your editing interface. Everything sits perfectly, and it saves you the stress of hunting for things. Once you're in your editing canvas, the first thing I like to do is drag my background track onto the timeline, reduce its volume to about -20 or -25 decibels, and crop it so it's nice and short. Then I start dragging my AI voiceovers, the ones I generated in batches, onto the timeline. I hit Command+E to highlight just the AI voices and increase the volume to around 10 decibels so it's nice and loud. Then I use the magnifying feature to stretch out my timeline so I can properly see what I'm doing. From there, I just start dragging all my generated clips onto the timeline in the exact order they were generated. You might need to crop and adjust specific clips to make sure everything syncs perfectly and sits right. For me, I generated some clips multiple times just so I'd have options to pick from. So just make sure you get all your clips onto the timeline and everything's properly highlighted and synced. You can also add a transition. If you click on the Transition tab in CapCut, it takes you to a bunch of pre-built templates. Find a transition you want and just drag it onto the editing interface. Now, transitions do have specific clips they fit best. For this project, I felt like the blink transition would work perfectly. Once you've added a few transitions here and there, one thing I like to recommend is adding an effect. I'm going to add the vignette effect, which gives the edges of my video that dark, shadowy look. I like adding that, and then I reduce the vignette texture by about 40%, so it sits around 60. That way it's subtle and not too intense. Once everything is lined up the way I want it, all I've got to do is export my video. And that's pretty much it.
4,500 years ago, the desert of Giza was empty. Then, a pharaoh dreamed of a tomb that would touch the sky. So, priests studied the stars to align the base perfectly north. Before any construction began, workers cleared the ground and leveled it using water-filled trenches. Then came the stone, more than 2 million blocks. Each block was cut from quarries with copper tools and wooden wedges. Meanwhile, the heaviest granite travelled hundreds of miles down the Nile on wooden barges. Once on land, teams dragged the stones across sand made slick with water. Throughout the project, thousands of skilled labourers worked together. Not slaves, but paid crews.